Hi Cancers, and welcome to your January 2022 General Tarot Forecast. This is Sky, coming on to do a late night reading for you. Somehow I always find myself doing Cancer readings very late during the night. It is almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I am currently in my end of the month rush, getting out some January 2022 content. As you can imagine, it has been quite hectic with the holidays, but I'm very happy to be here reading for you this evening, Cancer. I just think it's funny that the fourth house sign is always the one that I end up doing around midnight. It's like your energy comes through at that time. And that is the time of day that Cancer tends to rule over, is like the middle of the night, because the fourth house rules the middle of the night. So yes, let's see what we get for you. As usual, I will be doing intuitive messages followed by a week-to-week tarot forecast and an extended reading on Patreon. If you enjoy the reading and you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. And if you enjoyed even further, definitely check out the Patreon page linked below for the extended. Okay, so intuitive messages for Cancer in the month of January 2022. It's very likely that you've got quite a few things that are confining you more than they should. Seeing this 8 of Swords, 7 of Wands, 9 of Wands, Death card energy coming up, you're going to have to cut away some of these confinements this month. What this could look like in practice is like you don't perhaps know it about yourself, but just the way that you think about your job or your marriage or any of these things that we tend to think as, contractual obligations, the amount of energy it's taking up in your day-to-day might be too much. And I definitely recommend in this month of January to start finding some things that help you to divest yourself from spending so much time there. I'm not necessarily saying to spend less time in your job or to spend less time in your marriage, but I'm just feeling, hopefully I'm expressing this right, that you might be thinking a lot about it, or you might be, even when you're off the clock, or even when you're alone, you might be thinking of your job or your marriage or one of these obligations. And it's like it's not even the job or it's not even the marriage or any of these things that are really the problem. It's the fact that they're taking up so much of your energetic resources. So it kind of looks like a bit of a compulsive time where there's maybe a habit of doom casting or a habit of overthinking or a habit of spending too much time in rumination. And if that's the case, this is a month where you need new hobbies, or you need something new that's fun in your life, or something that is evocative of a brighter or more hopeful time. By the end of the month, you're going to, if you can see the way that the tone changes in the tarot spread, like you go from all that gray, kind of heavy, dull energy into the very yellow solar plexus, 3 of Wands and 9 of Pentacles. So that's almost very evocative to me of the shift from like ox year to tiger year that we are going through. I think that's so cool. It's not quite happening then, but it's also kind of like the shift of Jupiter in Aquarius to Jupiter in Pisces, which happened in December, but you might need a bit of extra time to feel it, where things go from such a confusing kind of peripheral and dull place to such a livened, heightened, and purposeful place. What a beautiful transition that you are offered here in the month of January. So it's also really likely that you might need to totally quit something or totally stop or totally let it go. Death card with the 9 of Wands. Something's way harder than it has to be. Something has outworn its welcome here. I've got to be very clear about that with you all. Something has not been followed through on. Something has not been acted upon. Something is not being exactly what it was planned to be. Something went unexpected. Plans did not come to fruition. Something is not what we expected here. And if you maybe look back at like the past 3 years of your life, you might just see very quickly what that is. Wow, that job ended so quickly, and I thought that would be something that would be in my life forever. Wow, the way that I think, or the way that I structure my day, or the way that I go about creating my space is completely different than I could have ever imagined for myself. If I think back to when I was 18 years old, if I would have known that this is where it would have come to, like, how just shocked would I have been to know that this is the result. So that's kind of an important place for you to be, and you probably need to feel that for like these first 3 weeks of January. You probably need to spend some time like coming to grips with your previous expectations and the results so that you can finally transcend the stuff here and now. And I feel that it's not going to be found really in the home, or these answers or these comfort points are not going to be found in the previous contextual space. So it's likely that traveling or even dating for some of you, if you're single, or just doing things that are different, doing things that are not so contextual will, I think, be a bright point for you and help you to see things from another perspective. And also, I think that there's a high point this month from the standpoint that, not being able to predict things, not being able to necessarily project perfectly can sometimes be a relief, because it kind of also shows that maybe the doom casting that you're doing now, or the fear of a bad turnout, or the fear of messing things up, might also not turn out. And that's a great thing, when our fears don't come to fruition. So as a previously expectant reality that you hoped and wished for does not come, I feel that you have to find hope in that, as it almost guarantees that some of these fears, or some of these like doom casting that you were doing over 2021, or some of these like complaints also won't come to fruition. So it's kind of like, what am I really spending my time as a Cancerian fourth house person doing? And what are these perceptions or these thoughts or these, hours and hours passed in reliving a memory, reliving a previous situation, analyzing another person's contribution, analyzing another person's social context within my situation? What is all of that time spent there giving back to me? And what are all of these, I suppose, thesis on who other people are or the role that they're playing in my life really proving, if they just fall apart like this? So yes, there is a falling apart of a previous preconceived notion or context. I can see like the role that you saw yourself playing like 5 or 6 years ago, and like the person you wanted to be, or the job you wanted to have, or the place you wanted to live, or basically your general whole life aesthetic just will probably not resonate now. And that can really be like life crushing for a Cancer, because they really put a lot of pride into their home environment, into their environment in general, their aesthetic, their jobs, like these like sort of feelings of home. And it's likely that with Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius that started last year, that totally got like mangled and thrown out and replaced. And now you have the coming to terms with that. Like, okay, I always wanted, hypothetically, I just always wanted to be a lawyer, and now I see a lot of disrespect in my heart for that profession, yet I'm still pursuing that. I'm working as a lawyer, and like, I'm just seeing a lot of corruption, and I'm seeing a lot of like really, I'm like watching shows about lawyers, and I feel disdain in my heart for it. And like, it's like, well, what now? Like, this thing that I always wanted to be is now something that my heart does not get any type of positive evocation from when I see stimulus relating to it. What do I do in that situation? January of 2022 is basically going to answer that question for you. And it's going to show you the way that things need to change. Maybe using that previous hypothetical example, this is not about like not being a lawyer. It's not about quitting or stopping, though for some of you it might be. It's more about curtailing your specialization in a different way. So like maybe it's a different kind of lawyer. Maybe it's practicing a different place. Maybe it's having your own, I don't know. It could be anything for anybody. But I do see that there has to be some type of shift in the niche, or a shift in the industry even. Perhaps it's much deeper than that. Perhaps it's really a shift in projection, in how one projects, or how one generates expectations in their lives, or how one flirts so steadfastly with that which is not here now, essentially creating so many different cruxes of like goals and patterns that end up not feeling right once you get there because they were manifested or generated in a place that was not happy with where it was. So what actually manifested, what actually continued was a feeling of not being happy in the present moment. So you, by not being happy in the present moment, you generate a goal that's like, ooh, wow, look at that. That's what I would like. That's what would make me happy. This thing that I don't currently have. Then you get that, just to not be happy with that because you didn't come to it in a place that like you were currently happy with what you had. So what maintains, what stays is that dissatisfaction with the present moment. That's probably the main crux for Cancer that would have emerged in 2021. In 2022, all this water energy is going to help you remember what really matters in life, like true friendships, true love, true healing, true, oceans, like being next to oceans, being next to water, true experiences in that vicinity. Instead of flirtations with that which is not. Okay. So let's talk about your week-to-week Cancer. In the first week, 8 of Swords rooted down by the Ace of Cups. So you might be trapped by like a bitterness or a feeling of apathy. Okay. And there's going to have to be some type of emotional breaking. Like, wow, I really did that to that person. I really like ghosted that person. I really did that. Like, whoa, I can't believe what I did. Like, there's a need to like come to terms with like what you did. And then also that other person will have to come to terms with what they've done. And as you come to terms with what you've done, it like kind of prompts all of the other energies in your life to start coming to terms, and everything eventually works itself out, at long last. So that's really nice to see in the first week of January. Also, I would really watch out for like ghosting people. Okay. I would really watch out for anything that's evocative of like a bad karma. So, pretending to be someone you're not, being like really hateful towards your spouse or partner, yet staying, spending all of the money that you've saved for so long, breaking things in your house or like having temper tantrums in your house, overworking yourself, workaholism. All of these dark, tangential experiences of human darkness have really got to go out the window because Cancer will endanger itself if it keeps lying to itself in this way where it justifies some of these energetic tangents. Okay, so there's a big wake-up call for 4th house people here in the first week of January, and it could come with a lot of crying. Okay. And this has to be a healing experience. It could be like, wow, I did not know who I was in that situation. I have totally lost track of myself. I have been actually living as my spouse or my partner. Like I have lived my life in their context so extremely that I am not even living as myself anymore. So a big coming to a head of codependent relationships here. Also a very quintessential time to discover that you actually, even if you broke up with someone years and years ago, are like still living as that person. Of course, I mean this in kind of like a symbolic way. Like you'd be surprised how this happens. I should make a whole video about this. But when people are in like really deep, intimate relationships for a long time with one another, and they like live together and they are like sleeping in the same bed and like all that stuff, it's really crazy to see how in a lot of those relationships, when they become codependent, that sometimes these people will like almost switch bodies. not serious. It's not what actually happens, but like they will start to animate their faces similarly. They will start to use similar vocal tones, intonations. They will start to have similar affectations. They will start to mimic. And sometimes even long after a breakup, those affectations and mimics will maintain. So it's really important in the first week of January, Cancers, for you to understand if you are basically embodying one of your ex's affectations at this point in time. And is that just what you're struggling with? Oh my God. I feel that so hard. As a 4th house person myself, I feel that so hard. Also, it's important to let those go now. So whatever you can do to ritualize that, like releasing balloons, releasing something, tears, maybe as you're like crying about it, you're like, okay, let these tears, as they leave my body, be those affectations or mimics. Let them go now. Also, even down to like really subtle stuff, like maybe before you got in that relationship, you never really had any money concerns. Maybe you were really confident about it. Maybe you always knew it would come to you, but because you were in like a relationship with somebody who was like extremely obsessive with money, even like parental relationships in this case, where you might have had like a parent that was like greedy or overly frugal or overly indulgent, either way. And now you're like, well, I never even really thought that much about money, but because I was so codependent with that person, it's like all that I think about now, and I can't stop thinking about money. And that was never a part of my personality until I became so connected to that person. So this is the main, I think, moral for you for the month of January, and I'm seeing how this is such a pivotal month for you. I've got to say, all of the 12 readings for this month of January have gone a lot longer and have been a lot more intense than I could have ever imagined. And it's saying to me that the month of January 2022, sort of being the culmination of the 2021 year cycle and, year of the ox and, the culmination also of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, the culmination of the North Node in Gemini, South Node in Sagittarius. It's really a huge opportunity to understand why certain things culminated in your life, like a obsession with money, like affectations or muscle memories that were never even yours to begin with. Those need to go now. So again, in the first week of January, you're going to need to see them if they're there, first and foremost. So this is where maybe like seeing a lot of photos of yourself being in social events are good for this, because you can maybe see photos. Also, being out of your own control. So like if you're maybe talking to a group of people and you're like gesturing and it's a really like, natural conversation, that's when you really see it. That's when you really see this dynamic, because you're not like maybe, like for example, if you just got on camera, like you're alone in your room and you like get on camera, maybe you journal, that would also be great to do, but it probably won't come through as much. I mean, maybe for some people it would, but where this really comes through is when you're not really like trying, like you're not really seeing yourself, you're not really, doing your own dialogue, like it's like a natural conversation. That's when these, like, I suppose, like neuronal experiences become, or sort of sequences become so visible. So you might want to do that in the first week. You might want to see yourself, okay? Unwrap these confines and allow this detoxification to happen of emotions. You're going to start over in some way emotionally in the first week of January. Week 2, you've got the 7 of Wands reversed, rooted down by the Knight of Cups. I don't think you have to be on guard anymore. I don't think anybody's going to really come out of the woodwork. I don't think that you're like in any kind of danger. You might kind of feel like you don't feel like secure, though. You kind of feel like, how vulnerable am I to another person? And it is interesting to see like how worried we become about like being caught out, or about like, suddenly being, attacked like energetically or verbally or whatever by another person, as kind of a mirror into our own like bad karma. Like people who have bad karma tend to be particularly concerned about like, someone like confronting them, or someone like sending them an email, or someone like communicating with them, or and not just the communication, but like afraid that there's going to be something really hard to face there in that communication or in that effort. I don't think you have anything to worry about in that regard. I don't think that anybody's going to do it. I don't think that anybody really even considers it. So again, it's interesting to see all of the regard you're placing in this, or all of the fear that's culminating in something that's completely a non-problem, or something that's not even going to happen. Like, oh no, I'm going to be called out by someone, or like one of my bosses is going to like write me some sort of like disciplinary type of note or something, or I'm going to get some type of criticism, and like nobody's even considering it. Nobody's even considering to criticize a Cancer right now. So the fear of some type of bad situation, I think that we have to start getting more confident. And second week of January is going to be a good time to do that. So try to not maybe will this stuff into action. So maybe keep it quiet. Like maybe don't like go around with your coworkers and be like, oh my God, I'm so afraid that like my boss is going to like write me up. Or, you know, in your family, maybe don't go around saying like, oh my God, I'm so worried that my parents are going to like, you know, cut my allowance or, I don't know, cut me out of the will or whatever it is. And then they would have never even thought about it. But like, because you are maybe talking about to family members about it and it somehow gets back to them, it then enters their head and it ends up happening like 3 years later because like, and it only ever entered their head because you started that dialogue with like someone else. So really freaky how things go around, kind of like virally, you know, like how things spread. Third week, you have the 9 of Wands, you're dead by death. Something's too hard. Something is taking too much effort from you, and you need to reform that if you can now. It's a great time to let go of this 2021 vibe of working really hard for minimal results or placing endurance into the wrong categories in your life. It's better to become a runner. It's better to become an endurance athlete if that's what you want. It's not so great to be thinking that, wow, I've just got to get through this marriage. I've just got to get through this location. I've just got to get through. Like, those are not great places to be placing the endurance category. So try to move on from those things if you are no longer satisfied with them. Week number 4, you have the 3 of Wands rooted down by the 9 of Pentacles. And what a change. So having that extra time to understand from the universe what it thinks that you could do. We need extra time. We need extra space in our fractal system in order to facilitate that. Taking time with new horizons, taking time with creativity, artistry, ease, understanding how things could be easier, okay? Understanding that like people from your past and present, but especially your past, probably respect you a lot more than you might consider and probably really wish that things could have been better. And like, you know, not that that really matters here and now, but like it's important to not maybe think otherwise if it's not the case. But if it is the case, certainly it's, you don't want, whatever the case is, it's important to not, you know, distort reality. So like thinking that people from your past really hate you to like glorify some type of climbing process now, to have like some type of energetic momentum on the feeling of like a difficult past, when like the people of the past like only wish well for you at this point. The universe is weird with that type of stuff. Like it does work for some people, I've got to be honest. Like some people, that's how some people get really far. But I'm feeling a bit of a paradigm shift there, and I'm feeling that the universe is placing a little bit more importance on like being in touch with reality and keeping fiction stories to fiction books, okay, and out of our own lives. We have a big problem in Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces in 2022 of fictitious scenarios or delusional tangents, living lies, things just like this, like knowing that you want to, I don't know, be a CEO of a company and like crafting all of these narratives about like how much you were like abused or hated by other people to like justify this character arc when all of these people only wish well for you. It's like, it might do it for you, but I am curious about the type of karmic momentum that that really sets if it's not true. I mean, you might see it rebound in other places in your life. You might see that like, I don't know, you become like the CEO of a company and like now all of your employees like start crafting this like story that like they're being like, their human rights are being abused by their like employer or something, even though it's never happening. And they like eventually, I don't know, run for like a political office or something. And 10 years later, they like come out with like some article about you as a CEO having been like terribly abusive, and they're like running a political campaign on this, but it never happened. So you start seeing that like other people that you know start to place you into this sort of delusional place. So this is kind of how karma works in general. And it's a good kind of applicable thing or applicable, connecting point to understand how delusion might operate in this new paradigm. Like you might get exactly what you want. It might really generate that momentum for you, but it would be important also to expect you to be constructing yourself in that same place for others. So seeing other people's delusional stories with you placed in them out of your control. And it never happened. So that's why truth and honesty is a great way to move into 2022. That's a long tangent. But by the 4th week of January, you're already seeing like, okay, I just have to like look towards the light now. Like I have to introduce honesty into this situation. I've got to get out of this darkness. I've got to maybe put some of these fictitious ideas into a book and write a fiction story, a novel, and channel this energy like that. And then perhaps live a very wholesome and real life. I feel that that's one of the main abundances, windfalls, benevolences for you by the end of January. As it might seem that you kind of walk out of a long-running cycle that was starting to become really reliant on really dark, scary stories to motivate some type of bigger ultimate cause in the future. Ooh, Cancers, do you feel that? I hope it doesn't resonate for you. I hope you have something else in your chart that doesn't have you in that place. But I think all Cancer people can at least relate to this from like a moralistic standpoint. Like even if you're not here, like it's good to be reminded of this for any sign really. Like choosing to leave that world where we need those dark points to justify light points. You know? Wow. Like, can we walk out of that now? Can we just have real earthy, grounded human experiences? Can we, yes, allow the truly dark aspects of our past to be remembered parts of our narrative that, yes, that give us conditions in our life that help us to transcend those things and maybe help others to transcend. Yes, that's wonderful. It's beautiful. But I just see a trend right now of like catastrophizing one's experience, perhaps even hoping that something might go bad, hoping that you might be impeded upon by another person to like start generating momentum upward. Because it's like these happier, easy experiences seem to be leading to like stillness or stagnation or tranquility, which might be feeling off-putting to some people. Like, oh my gosh, I should be having upward momentum. I should be climbing some type of mountain. I should be not happy with where I am. So how can I make where I am like a really traumatic and dark experience so that I have to like rise above that? And then I keep rising. And eventually here I am on top of some kind of mountain. So it does kind of say like maybe mountain climbers are a very specific type of breed or a very specific type of person, first and foremost. But secondly, it just says like, maybe it's important to start being happy with where we are unless it's really dark. And I mean, of course, is just the other side of this. Like you might truly be in a dark situation in which, yes, you need to try to rise above that. And that's all very clear. But if you are falling into this place where it's like, wow, I'm seeing that I'm making everything dark. I'm like choosing dark experiences. They're not choosing me at this point in time. It's a great, simple way to understand it. That might be the way to really step out of this and to get things easier, like 3 of Wands and 9 of Pentacles. This is easy, okay? Easy oncoming horizons, easy wealth. So let's, as Cancer people, perhaps try to get out of these dark trenches and embrace this sort of homeland or home point where there is ease, comfort, and real light experiences away from those fearful realities. Because all those doors are open. Like the exit doors are as open as the entry doors this year. I've talked in the 2022 year ahead forecast about all these open doors, and I need to specify that further. The exit doors are as open as the entry doors. So I think that's incredible. Let's talk a little bit more about that in your extended reading, Cancer. Before I do, I just want to say I think your sign is incredible, and I have been very grateful for every Cancer person who's ever been in my life. I've had a lot of them, and I hope that they are just thriving 1,000,000% right now, like from the bottom of my heart. Like if you're like a Cancer and you're watching this, I hope that you're doing so well, and I hope that you're so ready to just like embrace like a truly loving and life-oriented life. As a fourth house person myself, I'm also hoping that I can be ready for that too. So let's talk more in your extended reading about that, Cancers. Thank you so much for being here on YouTube. It's a labor of love. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button, comment below, let me know how you're doing. And if you had anything to add or any tips of your own about coming out of some of these weird, dark experiences. Anyway, let's jump over to Patreon. I will link it below and in the center of your screen if you want the extended reading. It's a long one. We're already half an hour here on YouTube, but I also do weekly tea chats over there. I do a lot of bonus content, benevolence audio stream monthly, and more. So definitely come and check it out. It's a great value right now. So yes, link below and in the center of your screen. Let's do this extended, Cancers. Much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful, loving January. I love you guys so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.